Hello subscribers and first time viewers, welcome to the Kenny Hack. Today I'm going to be showing you how to put images on ceramic tile using magic markers. I'm going to really show you what the magic is in magic markers. So sit down, get a drink. This is a pretty long video. There's a lot of information to cover. We're going to be showing different results for different kind of markers that are on the market and are easy to find. Trying to just show which is the best one out there, and show you kind of a lot of the process. So let's go. Right now I'm just halfway through burning my comparison tiles, so I'll give you a quick rundown on some of the previous ones and what we're comparing to, looking at different methods. What's the best, what's the easiest, which one would I prefer to do. This one here was just straight 2x Rust-Oleum gloss paint directly onto the tile. Didn't have to clean the tile, just put it directly on there. In fact, you really don't think you want to clean the tile because you don't want, you want to try to reduce the chance that the paint is going to get fused into the tile, and that's going to alter your color. So you actually want that protective coating on to stay on the tile, so hopefully none of the paint gets fused in when you're burning it off. Now I ran this one at about 4,300 millimeters per minute, about 85% power. I believe I was using the newsprint dither, 318 DPI. Really happy with how that one turned out. Looks really nice. The downside of doing this is you have to give it a little time for the paint to dry, and you got to kind of get your methodology down of how you're putting the paint on. Make sure you're kind of putting it on the same way every time, just so your laser settings will hold up. But it is a very good method. I think you have to put a protective coating on this because, as you can see, you handle it a little bit, it's pretty easy to scrape the paint off. So it needs a good protective coating on there, a good shellac or lacquer, something that is going to hold up to some abuse. Now this one here, first I put a white paint, a couple coats of white paint on the tile, let that dry for a few hours, and then put a black layer of paint on. I wanted to see just how that undercoating paint affected it. It seemed to, in a side by side, the color is a little more muted down. It's not quite as bright as black, but I think you get a little softer details with it. It's not such sharp color changes, so it'd be a preference call on which one of them methods you like. The downside to having that undercoat is if you put it on too heavy and it's still emitting fumes and vaporize, if it's not dry enough, when you put that black layer on, you'll see it start crackling out. It'll crackle all up like it's crackle paint, and that's kind of the downfall of this painted tile method, is that paint crackling can seem to happen to you at any time during the process if the paint's not quite dry right. I've seen people where they've got their image all burned in, it turned out really good, and then they went to seal it up, and just when the sealer contacts the paint, it softens back up the top layer, and all of a sudden, boom, you get an instant crackle effect on top, and it kind of ruins the whole burn. So you're kind of always taking some risks when you're doing this method that, sometimes they turn out perfect, sometimes they, you get the crackle, sometimes you... But the good thing about both of these methods is if something turns out wrong, you can just take acetone to it, strip all the paint off, save the tile, and start over. There's no, but after you've stripped it all down, now you've stripped that protective coating, you might want to set that tile aside for one of the Norton method tiles, or like I'm going to show you the magic marker method, which I think is actually better than the Norton method of the white paint on white tile. And that's what the most of this video is going to be about. It's going to be I'm making demos of these 3 different types of markers. If you've seen in my first marker video, I didn't think the markers would be able to do images. I thought they kind of just burned a straight black and didn't seem to get a very good test pattern out of them. But after I fooled around with the settings for some bit and tried some different more tests, I kind of got it working. You know, I still got some improvement to do, because if you see my videos, normally I run in newsprint. I switched over to halftone, because in halftone you can set an angle and how many, and this is what I kind of missed for a long time when I was looking at that, is under halftone you can set how many cells per inch, and that's what I'm still working on. I'm trying to find the best number that gives me the best result. The default is at 50, and it's really coarse. When you burn that, it always was coming up really coarse for me, so I just kind of stayed away from the halftone just because it gave too grainy of a result. And then I finally noticed that you can change this setting and keep increasing it until you know, I keep playing, just trying to see hoping if it looks like a nice consistent shading here, it'll translate to the tile. I've tried some of the other dithers with this. I've tried the Atkinson, the Jarvis. These are all just too fine. They're too small of dithering. Like when you get into the light tones, when you get down towards this end of the spectrum, these are just too fine. They just don't seem to burn in or stick. So in newsprint does really well. I don't have a problem with newsprint, but I like how this halftone just gives you more control. You can actually play with some different settings, set your scan angles, set your cells per inch, and it's just some other setting, more settings that you can kind of manipulate and find what gives you the best results that you like, you know. So I'm going to kind of be playing more with that in the future, kind of trying to dial in the numbers for that and see which one I really like the best overall. But that's going to be some more work in progress. So right now, kind of burning them all at this setting. Sorry, I'm knocking all the pins over that were in front of me. Kind of just trying this one right now, 70 cells per inch at a 17-degree angle. That seemed to give me a really nice, smooth shading all the way from left to right. There's no funky patterns popping up in it. Like you'd think if you go higher and higher, it's going to get smoother and smoother, but sometimes you can get it to where all of a sudden all the dots starting to line them back up in funny patterns. So that's what you don't want. You know, you'd think the higher the cells, the better it's going to be, but it's not really that might not be the case. So if anybody's watching this and if you really played around with the halftone, if you found a really good setting, please share in the comments below. It'd be really good information to share with everybody. But like I said, I'm just starting to play with it and seeing what I can do with it. So like I said, this one here was ran at 5,000 millimeters per minute, 80% power, which is about as high as I like to run on my power settings. Sometimes I'll go to 85, but that's pretty much my max speed. Running 318 DPI. I haven't done a 254 versus 318 comparison yet, but and kind of sticking with those numbers for my tests. Under the shape properties, you kind of it seems like you don't want very much pure white in your image. So I kind of had to shift the whole image to a little bit darker. I don't want any pure white. So I've raised the gamma up to 1.5, contrast -25, 15 on the brightness with 0 enhancements. Kind of giving that a try. I just like the pure white, all the ink's just going to wipe off. And if you want to get these finer bit of shadings, you got to get them a little bit more off of the pure white scale. You got to shift them up to like a 5-10% as your pure white grade. Just give it a little more color to try to burn in with the ink. And it was kind of odd with this method. It almost seemed like the faster I ran, the darker it got. You kind of hit a breakover point. But I'll see if I can scrounge up one piece here. Hold on a sec. Okay, was like the first one I kind of really got to work. This was done with the Creatology marker. On the right side, I still had the halftone turned on, and you can see how grainy it is. The rest of this is newsprint. Now, you can see in here there's all kinds of little brush strokes and skips, and I think that's because I was going too slow. If you can imagine that I'm going too slow, that's a pretty rare case for me that I'm going too slow. But I think I was kind of overburning a lot of the marker off, and it all just wipe away to where you're getting down to where the marker was really thin. And as I sped up, it seemed to get darker and darker. The more I sped it up, the darker the image got. It took more work to brush the ink off. It took a lot more acetone and a lot more scrubbing, but you no longer kind of see the brush strokes. They you can still get some fine lines in here if it's kind of like a skip where the felt didn't quite get on it, but overall this was done with the jot marker, which is like the smallest one. This is only just a standard like 15 millimeter nib, so it takes a lot of scribbling to get that on there, but it goes on pretty smooth. And this was bought at the Dollar Tree. You get a 3-pack for $1, so very easy to go get. The Creatology, this big Magnum marker was like $8, and you can put it on faster, but this one here is probably the worst of the three on how smooth it goes on. It tends to dry out really fast, and so you can see there's a lot of places where I had to go dab back in to make sure there was no little white spots poking through. So even though this big fat marker tip, you can see the size of these Magnums, you can cover a lot of area with them, but by the time I had to dab everything back in, it was probably actually quicker to put it on with the little jot marker that went on smoother and didn't leave so many skip areas. Now, the Sharpie, it definitely goes on the smoothest and the evenest. You can kind of overlap your area a couple times, but on my first initial tests, I had a hard time getting this one to burn in, so kind of gonna try a side by side running at the same speed, even though this one goes on the best and probably is the best quality. In my first test, I was having a hard time getting this one to work, but we'll see where I'm at right now and could do a side by side. It just finished burning, so I'll kind of show you what that cleaning process looks like. So here we are back out in the garage. Just got a big jug of acetone. Just a big old dirty rag. Working with acetone, always make sure you get some latex gloves or some kind of hand protector. Don't try to get too much of that acetone on you. not very good for your health in the long run. So you can see you don't hardly see much burned in. You can see where like the no burn areas are, and we'll see if this one works as good as the others. This is the magic of magic markers. It doesn't look like it did anything, but then as you rub it off, and I mean, you don't want to be too aggressive with the acetone. This is pretty much fused into the tile, but if you sat here and rubbed on it long enough, you probably could eventually get it all out of there. It's partially infused, good enough to hold up to the first acetone cleaning. And I can tell already this one is not going to show up as well as what the Jot marker did. It goes on really good. It's definitely the best flowing marker, but it still might work at a slower speed. Maybe if I knocked it from 5,000 millimeters back to 4,000, which only probably only take about an extra 5 minutes on the run, so it wouldn't be that bad. But you can see that it's in there. It's fused in, and so you just be able to clear coat right over that. But like I said, when I show you the side by side to the Jot marker, which was from the Dollar Tree, the dollar markers, you'll see how much better that cheap marker was than the nice Sharpie. But there you go. It's fused in there just like the white paint on white tile Norton method, except for when I try that method, I can't hardly get it to work unless I'm down around 1,000 millimeter mark to get it to fuse into the tile with the white paint. And then when you're painting white paint on white tile, it's easy to skip an area, not get it on even, and I just never can get a good consistent result out of it. So I just haven't messed very much with the Norton method. I've just had too many problems with it, and I can't seem to run at the speed I want to run. So that's why when I seen this magic marker method in the forums, and seen some people running around 2,000 and 3,000 speeds, that's what's got me interested in this magic marker method. I think it's a lot more production friendly. So the next tile will be the Creatology brand, and we'll see how that one goes. So I just started the final sample with the Creatology brand, and now you can really see this is the Sharpie. And that's the problem I had with it. It just doesn't seem to fuse in as well as the other two. And like the more and more you try to clean it, it just keeps coming off a little more and a little more. And you can see here on the Jot, out here on the edges, it's starting to you could start thinning it down. It was starting to wear in on the edge. But it held up long enough to get it cleaned off, and you know, that edge just kind of gives it that, you know, aged photo look where it's just kind of weathered on the edge. I am perfectly fine with that image tapering off on the edges. That'll look just fine. And what I do to, like, this style has barcodes on it. I just take my magic marker, run around the perimeter to black out all that edge, because a lot of times when you're cleaning this, you'll get some of the ink will stain into this porous tile. So instead of trying to clean it all off, just cover it up with the magic marker and then spray your clear coat over the top of it, and that'll kind of help frame in the picture as well. And it's just a quick, easy fix for that problem. And I also do, like, This brand here, it's a 1/4 inch bigger than what these tiles are, and it also has these little nibs, spacing nibs, and like little mortar anchors on the edge. So these were cheaper. These were $8 for a box of 100. These were like $11 for like a box of 96. I think, and like, these were Home Depot. I got these at Lowe's, so I think I kind of prefer the Lowe's brand with like the no nibs and a nice even 4-inch tile size instead of 4 1/4. I kind of like how them leave a nice edge to frame it, but if I'm going to keep doing this magic marker method, that, unless I drew that in around the photo, when you clear off the tile, that's going to come off. It's not going to stick. So might as well just go down to the 4-inch. I believe these are exactly 4-inch tiles. Yeah. So makes it they're just millimeter under 4-inch, right at 100 millimeters. Which, when I size and GIMP, I go to the even inch mark, just because we're still stuck with that DPI setting in Lightburn. So it always comes out as like 101.606 is 4 inches. So my image is going to overrun these tiles a little bit, but I'm fine with that. It makes it easier to square it up under the laser and make sure you get the whole tile covered. So right now, basically all that's left is showing you the result of the jot marker, or no, I'm sorry, the Creatology, and we'll kind of see which one does the best. And I'm kind of hoping it's the jot. And I was actually recommended by one of the viewers, and one of the guys I know in the forums, or have seen his work in the forums. He was the one I first seen do this marker method. I don't know who he learned, or if he's seen it for somebody, or if it was just something he tried. I never have asked him about that, where he come up with the idea. But he's the one who recommended these jot markers from the Dollar Tree, and he said he's had pretty good luck with them. So we'll see how it does. I have found some markers online with really big nibs, like 50 millimeter nibs that are like graffiti markers. I'm probably going to give them an order, give them a try, and I'll maybe do another follow-up video in the future if I find those ones work better. But right now I'm kind of thinking my money's on this jot. Even though it takes a little longer to put it on because it's a smaller nib, it stays wetter longer, and so you don't have as many problems of getting, like when it dries and you try to go over it a second time, you usually just end up smearing the marker off. So it's nice, and that's why the Sharpie's really good, because it stays really wet for a long time. You can about put 2 coats on without smearing it. And this jot works pretty good too, and that's the bad thing about Creatology, is it dries really fast. And so you have to do it in really small blocks, and then, you know, just kind of, and so it's really easy to get little skip marks and like places where you scrubbed it off. A couple of these ones I put it on, didn't like how the coating come out, so I took it back, acetoned it back off, put another coat on, said yeah, that one's nice and even, and then I went. So it's easy to fix and just get things going, where, like I said, the painted tiles, they turn out really well, but you can get a really nice end product and go to clear coat it, and all of a sudden it scales up on you, and I guess you can kind of sand them down with some really fine grit sandpaper and maybe redo it. But I want to have something where, when I've burned the tile and clear coated, I'm not worrying about the clear coat screwing up my final project. So even though I think these get a much darker, brighter image, I don't think I'll have as many failures doing this method as what I do with this one. You know, like especially where it's an undercoated paint. I had painted up some colored tiles, let them sit overnight, went to paint the black layer on, and poof, it instantly scaled up. The base coat hadn't dried enough yet. I must have put it on too thick, because I'm just starting to learn how to do these myself. And that's where it was nice just putting the black right straight onto the tile with no undercoat. There was nothing to screw up the black paint. So black and white, I like the softer looks of this one, but you have less risk of problems with going right on the tile, in my opinion anyway, between them two. So like I said, I'll just let this last one finish running, give you what that looks like, and we'll wrap up this video. Okay, back out here, this is the Creatology. And once again, when you get done burning, it's not going to look like it's done anything. It's just going to look black. And let's get some acetone. And I never knew why magic markers were called, why they were called magic markers. This is the first real magic trick I've ever seen a magic marker do. But it's really impressive on how well this works. And like I said, it seemed like you have to speed up, and it actually turns it darker. And since you're not burning all that marker off, it reduces the brush strokes. As you can see where I had to dab in to fill in all the gaps, and they're still kind of starting to, you can still see a few spots come through. And it's definitely more present in this Creatology brand than it was the Jot brand. So right now I'm saying my money's kind of on the cheap little Dollar Tree store markers, the Jots. Just because not as many of these little imperfections showed up through the Jot markers. And that's just because this one here dries so fast, and it's easy to get skips in places where if you go over it twice, it actually strips it right back down to the bare tile, and you can't get it in there even again. But overall, even that turned out really well. Very good image, except for all the little imperfections caused by where the marker kind of scratched itself off. But the Creatology definitely seems to be the one that sticks in the best. If I could just get a technique where could get it on even, that's the problem with that brand. So there's that one. We'll go up and do a side-by-side with the Jot and kind of see how they look together. So this here is the Creatology. You can see all the little scratch marks in it from where the marker didn't get it right. And actually the little cheapo Jot marker did a lot better of covering up them overlap spots. Even though it had a lot of spaces where I had to overlap, it just doesn't show up as well. But, and you can see, this is the halftone. This here is the newsprint. Right now, I'm still getting a better print image out of the newsprint than I am the halftone. But that's just because I've just started using this halftone and don't have it probably figured out quite right yet. I think I can eventually get that to be at least that good a quality as the newsprint, and hopefully better. Because if you normally, if you compare newsprint to one of the other dithers, this one looks really grainy in comparison. And that's kind of how the halftone is compared to the newsprint. But This one you have all the control over it. So it's what I'll be messing with in the future a little bit more. Some more experiments. As always, more and more experiments. Trying to find out what's the best. Hopefully help all you viewers out. So I'll do the experiments and give you the results, and hopefully it saves you the time and the money it costs to do these experiments. One thing I can tell you, I had thought of a great idea. I thought, oh, I got it licked now. I got the thing that's gonna fix it all. Went down to Michael's and got one of these big ink pads, thinking I'd just be able to take the tile, press it right into the ink pad, get a nice flat layer on it, and wouldn't have any brush strokes. This stuff doesn't work at all. Don't waste your money on it. I tried a little deal of this one is permanent ink. This is washable, but I thought, well, if I can get it to fuse in, I'll get it to fuse in. Neither one of these worked worth a dang. Even down at like 1,000 millimeters, I couldn't get them to burn in. And this one here, I couldn't even hardly get onto the tile. It's such a hard pad in there. I just couldn't. Bought a little roller to roll it on. Spent like 35 bucks getting this stuff just to give it a try, and it was a major fail. It did not work at all. So throw it in with the rest of the craft stuff, and I'll maybe use it for something else 10 years down the road, like I always seem to do with hoarding all my craft goods. But yeah, if you're thinking, oh, there's got to be another way out there, cross that one off the list. It didn't work at all. So right now, trying to get one of the really wide tip markers that are 50 millimeters wide. So on the videos, it looks like they coat on really good and heavy. So I'm hoping all it about takes is two good passes or so with that, and you'd have a nice even coat of ink and give them a try. So for right now, run to your local Dollar Tree, maybe even Walmart might carry this brand. This is like probably the most generic brand of marker out there. But so far, it seems to go on the easiest. Kind of creates the least amount of overlap problems. Like you can see here where all the brush strokes, that was with Creatology. The Jot marker just don't seem to produce them. So hopefully that gets you going. Kind of need more experiments done on this method. Hoping you viewers can start working on it, and we'll get everything figured out together. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Spread it through the forums if you like how it works. I do like this method better than the Norton method even. I know the Norton method's all the rave, but I just can't get the speeds I want to be able to run at. I don't want to run down at 1,000 millimeters per minute. That's fine for hobby work, but trying to get production for my clients to where I get them the cheapest price possible and I get the most value out of my laser time, this one here is running at speeds I can do that with. At 4,000 to 5,000 millimeters per minute, where I can do one tile in a half hour instead of taking 2 hours at 1,000 millimeters. That's more money in your pocket. That's less wear and tear on your laser. Overall, it's just less laser time. I could produce a 4-pack of these in the time it used to take me to produce just one tile running at 1,000 millimeters. So that's the benefit of it. If you're not worried about production time and only want to run 1,000 millimeters, then a lot of other options are available on how you want to do it. But for production speeds, right now, this one's kind of got my vote for ease of use. Even over the painted tile method, this one's a lot cheaper. I can go pick up probably a dozen of these markers for $4. That would last me a whole box of tiles versus all the paint it'll take me to cover a whole box of tiles the other methods. Like if I wanted to paint a whole box of these tiles, I'd probably have to buy several cans of paint to go through a whole box of them. But the magic markers, pretty cheap I think in the long run. And I'll have to start looking around more for these jot markers, find more places they are available. I think they might be the ones that are at Walmart, maybe Target, other places to look. So sorry once again, sorry this video ran so long. It was just a lot of stuff to get out there. Kind of a new method that I haven't seen too many people doing. And got a lot of questions in the forums about it. So wanted to get more information out there so everybody else can start doing it. And we can all start learning together and posting the information in the forums to share our results, and we can all get better for it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.